let's go over to our last game, and it is the biggest game of the entire weekend, Dawn. That is number 5 Georgia at number 1 Texas, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time game on ABC. We've been spoiled as college football fans lately. So over the last 4 weeks, there's only been one of them where we didn't have a top 5 matchup. We got Alabama, Georgia a few weeks ago. Obviously, the week after, we didn't get anything, but still had a mad week of college football. Just an absolutely chaotic week. And then last week, Oregon, Ohio State. And this week, we got Georgia against Texas. We've been spoiled as college football fans so far. And this is Texas's toughest test of the whole season. The whole season. Not just, so far. No, in the entire regular season, this is their toughest test all year. The Longhorns have looked like the most dominant team in the country through the first 7 weeks, which is why they're the number 1 team in the country right now. They've won their first 6 games by an average of 36.8 points, with their closest game, their quote-unquote closest game this year, Dalton, was a 22-point victory for Mississippi State. Their closest game, they still won by more than 3 touchdowns.
With their backup quarterback.
With their backup quarterback against Mississippi State.
Backup, yeah.
Again, quote, backup quarterback.
A Manning, yeah.
Yeah, a Manning, exactly. But it should be noted, though, Texas has only beat one team that's currently in the top 25, and that's Michigan, who's right now 24th in the country. It's right in the edge of being in the top 25. So Georgia, as a number 5 team in America, is easily the biggest challenge the Longhorns have in the entire regular season. I don't think Texas has a bigger game until at least the SEC title game, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe some people in A&M will debate that one at the end of the year.
The rivalry there, yeah.
The rivalry, yeah. But I just love that we got Quinn and the big cowboy hat back there, too. And that's
elite. That's an elite job by Quinn.
That's a great picture to have back there.
By Eli back there,
That's just awesome. But, no, I'm with you. I mean, so far, I know they haven't played the hardest schedule, but sure has looked like Texas is the best team in the country, hasn't it? But look, Georgia, is it old dynasty against new dynasty, or is it still Georgia running the show here? And Georgia doesn't want to get a second loss either. So this is, look, I know it's Texas's biggest game of the year. This is Georgia's biggest game of the year, too.
Yep.
This could be a second loss already, and I know they'd be 2 top 10 losses, but this is Georgia. We're trying to get back on the horse here after what we saw in the first half of that Bama game. The last 2 games, they've certainly taken care of business, but Mississippi State game, they were playing around with them a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
It was a little weird. It was like they still won by a good margin, but it was like they were playing with them a little bit.
You want me to jump into it here
Go
as
ahead.
to why? I mean, I think the matchup in this game, and look, the big thing about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, right, was, can they play in the SEC in the trenches? That's a resounding for Texas. Look, this is Kelvin Banks, Cameron Williams, these guys on the offensive line. They can absolutely play in the SEC trenches, and they're right now the best pass-protecting team in the country after I believe they were second last year behind Oregon, and that Oregon had a legendary pass-pro season. So you're talking about a team first in pass-pro grade, first in pressure percentage. They've given up the 7th fewest sacks in the country. I mean, they've given up 6 sacks on the year, but why that's 7th fewest for them is we've only charged 1 to their offensive line. I believe 4 or 5 of those 6 have been charged to the quarterbacks holding the ball too long. So when you look at what their offensive line is doing, dominant, and we've seen them at times too dominant in the run game. But I'll stay with the pass rush. Look, Georgia's got to find a better pass rush, okay? Last year, kind of the biggest weakness on the team. There's a lot of big-name guys up there, right? But right now, they're tied for 79th in pass rush grade in the country. It's been average, right? We got big guys up front. We got Michael Williams. We've got Nazir Stackhouse. We've got, their leader in pressures with 13 pressures is Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, right? We saw the best moment for them in pass rush was against Kentucky when they were blitzing Jalen Walker every play, right? But are they going to be able to send 4? Is this defensive line? They're much better in run defense. I will give them that. It's a very good run-defending defensive line, which is going to be big in this game, right? Steve Sarkisian likes that balance and run the ball and RPOs and all that. But they need to find a way to bother Quinn Ewers, because I know Quinn didn't look good last week. If we're being real, I know they won big over Oklahoma, but he physically he just looked off, right? I don't want to be the team that has him standing back there clean and lets him find a rhythm. Absolutely not. We've seen what Quinn Ewers can do when he gets hot, for sure. And even if it's not Quinn, we've seen what Arch Manning can do if anything happens. But it's Quinn's team, right? And if he gets hot, good luck. I mean, we've seen him beat Alabama twice. We've seen him tear up Michigan. We've seen him tear up teams with maybe better defenses than this Georgia team has right now. So obviously Kirby's going to bring his A game. He always does. They're going to scheme up stuff that bothers this Texas team. But at the end of the day, to me, Texas, at least on offense, they have the advantage in the trenches here. Their offensive line should have the advantage over Georgia's D-line that has been closer to decent than great.
Yeah, and Texas has the best O-line in the country right now. It's unreal how good this offensive line has been this year. And you mentioned it, Georgia is 62nd right now in pass rushing grade this year. So it just hasn't been there for the Georgia pass rush right now. Other side of the ball, for me, it's, all right, Carson Beck, can you be Superman like you've been in the last 2.5 games? Because he has been superhuman in these last 2.5 games.
He's trying to get back in that first round conversation.
He really is.
There was some people jumping off the ship, and I was like, wait, don't jump off the ship after one bad half of – you're allowed one bad half of football.
And he had a bad half of football against Alabama. He has been on fire in the last 10 quarters of football for him. So in that second half against Alabama, he had 339 passing yards and 3 touchdowns and almost won that game for Georgia. He had 2 big-time throws as well in the second half against Alabama, excuse me. Over the last 2 games against Auburn and Mississippi State, he has a 92 grade, which leads all quarterbacks in the nation over the last 2 weeks. And over those last 2 weeks, 705 passing yards leads all Power 4 quarterbacks, 6 big-time throws, tied for 3rd in the nation. So over the last 2.5 games, Carson Beck has looked like the best quarterback in college football, like we thought he was entering the year. But he'll have some difficulty, because this Texas defense is a lot better in coverage this year. Right now, they lead the nation with a 93.9 team coverage grade this year. They are also tied for 4th in pass rushing grade and lead the nation in both passing yards per attempt at only 4.6 and explosive pass play rate allowed at 6.1%. So only 6.1% of opposing passing plays have gone for 15-plus yards this year on Texas. That's the lowest rate in the country. And Georgia, without Brock Bowers, without Ladd McConkey, both of whom are doing excellent in their rookie years in the NFL, they don't have dudes in that receiving core anymore. And right now, their receiving grade is 49th in the nation. So they don't have a true star in that receiving core. So Carson Beck, who we know is a guy that does really well when it's really good around him, he's having to elevate this offense right now, which is something you don't really want to see him doing too much. And to his credit, he's done it in the last 2.5 games, but can you do it against what's been probably the best pass defense in college football this year?
I'll tell you who does want to see him do that is draft scouts.
Yeah.
Because if he elevates that group through this game against the team that's leading the nation in coverage grade, now you talk about, this is
pass
Carson
rush
Beck.
too. Yeah.
I'm telling you, there is an element there with Beck where – because before the Bama game, it was very conservative, wasn't it? It was just Georgia kind of picking and prodding and letting their defense and secondary win and kind of figuring it out. But then I had a feeling one good thing could come out of the second half of that Bama game, and that was just, you know what? Man, if he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, just let it rip. Let him throw it downfield. Just let him do it and see what happens. You're still – okay, so maybe they don't have a McMillan or a Burden, but these are – athletes at Georgia. Yeah. I mean, this is the University of Georgia with everything. They've got to have something there, right? Look, those 6 big-time throws, I think, in the last 2 games, that's a big thing to mention. I had a feeling coming out of that Bama game, it would be like, you know what? Carson, it's your show.
Yeah.
Let's see it. So, look, is he going to have to be special for Georgia to win this game? Absolutely. If he does it, you're going to get a lot of people back on the Carson Beck train going, oh, okay, maybe that one period of 30 minutes of football, maybe we judged him a little quick there.
Maybe he goes back to being QB1 even. This is a huge game for his draft stock. Honestly, I know a lot of people are dropping him like flies right now, but I think with this kind of game, if he is still Superman like he's been the last 2.5 games, he could do it. But it's worth mentioning, though, second half against Alabama, he found it against a young secondary, and then Auburn, Mississippi State, that's not the best competition either, right? This is the best competition. This is Texas. This is one of the best pass defenses in college football. So really looking forward to seeing if Carson Beck can continue to be this amazing against, again, what has been an elite passing defense from Texas this year. Dawn, ultimately, who wins this top 5 matchup between Texas and Georgia?
I think if Georgia's going to win this game, Carson Beck's going to have to be special, A-plus first-round level special. I think in a neutral sense, if he doesn't do that and he doesn't have the game of his career, I think Texas is just the better team. I agree right now. I do think they're the best team in the country. I think they're the least flawed team in the country now that it appears, at least, that they have fixed this secondary, because that was the biggest problem last year. I'm a little timid about the way Quinn Ewers looked last week, but maybe we'll chalk it up to first game back off an injury and rust and playing a very good Oklahoma defense. So I've got Texas 30-24. I think the home field advantage helps. I think just all the tools they have at their disposal helps the secondary, the offensive line. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at the advantage Texas's secondary has and their offensive line has, and you pair that with Georgia's lack of really dynamic weapons on the outside and their lack of a pass rush, unless some of those guys up front start playing better and the pass rush are winning one-on-one matchups, I think Texas has a few more advantages. I'll take them 30-24.
I'm also going with Texas in this game, 31-27. I'm with you. The only way I can see Georgia winning this game is, one, if Quinn Ewers is not as effective like he was last week, and two, if Carson Beck is clearly the best player on the field. That's how Georgia wins this game, but those are two really tough things to really predict right now. So I'm going with Texas in a close one. I think Carson Beck, maybe not an A+ performance, maybe not a career best performance, but I still think it'd be good in this game, good enough to make it a close one. But ultimately, I think the Longhorns show why they're the most complete team in college football right now, and it's a home game for Texas as well, which will play a factor as well. That stadium's gonna be rocking. I got Texas in a close one, 31-27.